Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. We're back with another video. This time it's something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a list build. Now I've still got the dreaded COVID, and you probably noticed in the last video that by the end of the video my whole face was bright red. I was absolutely exhausted. Hopefully it'll be going a little bit smoother than the last one. Let's see how it goes. So I've actually been challenged by one of our YouTube members. He's also in the Discord, and he set me out a challenge. Now originally the challenge was an all destroyer and all canoptic list, and I thought I'd break this down a little bit further and do just a destroyer only list. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So it's a 1000 point list, no canoptic units, none of that kind of stuff. It's pure destroyer cult units only. So let's not waste any time and let's get straight into this list. So of course, in order to begin a list, you need to select a dynasty code. So when I was selecting the dynasty code, it was quite tricky. I was going through quite a few different ones. I went through the Novak code, I went through the custom codes, but ultimately I've settled on the Zarrakan Dynasty, simply because the destroyer cult units are quite elite units within our Necron codex, and I thought the rerolls to the wound rolls could be quite key, and also the 5+4 no pain save against mortal wounds is pretty handy as well, especially on these models that you don't want to lose. They're quite expensive. So I've gone with the Zarrakan Dynasty. So I've gone with the Spearhead detachment, which isn't the most commonly used detachment when you're playing Necrons. It's the heavy support detachment, so you can take up to 6 heavy support options. But I will explain why I've selected this detachment when we go through the tactics later in this video. So let's begin the list with the HQs. I've selected 2 HQs for this list, and the first one, which is also the Warlord, is going to be a Locust Lord. So he's coming in at 105 points, and I'm also giving him the 5-point upgrade for the Phylactery, so he brings back D3 wounds as opposed to 1 for his living metal ability, which is going to hopefully keep him up and running because he's only got 6 wounds to begin with, so that's why I've gone for the Phylactery. Now as for the actual Warlord trait, I'm giving him the Implacable Conqueror Warlord trait, so that allows core units within 6 inches to reroll their charge roll. Now as for his relic option, I've given him the Veil of Darkness. I never leave home without a Veil of Darkness in my list. It's always super handy, especially when you've got tons of core units with all these destroyer cult units. So he's got the Veil of Darkness relic. He's coming in at 110 points in total. Then as for the second HQ within the list, I've gone with the second Locust Lord. Now I did want to put a Scorpet Lord in, but they're just so pricey in terms of what they're going to be doing, so I've gone for the Locust Lord a second time here. Now I've used a Dynastic Heirloom stratagem so I can get an additional relic within the list, and I've given him the Void Reaper. So you've got to pay 5 points for the actual War Scythe, and then it upgrades to the Void Reaper, which then becomes a damage 3 weapon, and it also ignores Feel No Pain saves, which makes it pretty decent, as there's a lot of abilities nowadays that have got Feel No Pain saves, so wiping those away could be pretty handy. Now I will explain to you why I've selected these kind of options for the 2 Locust Lords when we're going through the tactics later on, but they're the 2 HQs I've gone with this list. Let's move on to the troops. Wait, there is no troops, because there's no troops which are destroyer cult units. So we're moving swiftly on to the elite section. Now the elite section is pretty straightforward. I've just gone with one single unit of Scorpet Destroyers, and I've got 6 of them. So of course 2 of them are going to have the Hyperphase Reap Blades, and 4 of them are going to have the Hyperphase Threshers. This is probably going to be the most scariest unit within the list, 6 Scorpet Destroyers, which could potentially use that Veil of Darkness relic as mentioned. So fast attack, I've gone with 2 identical units of Ophidian Destroyers. They're min units of 3, so there's 3 in one unit, 3 in another unit. They've got the exact same weapons as the Scorpet Destroyers have. As you know, the toughness is slightly less, the armor save is a 4+, the strength is also slightly less as well, but they are a little bit quicker, and they've got the Deep Strike ability or Dimensional Translocation ability. So they're going to be doing some stuff in terms of secondaries. Again, we'll talk about that in a bit. So then we come on to the heavy support slots. Now I can have up to 6 heavy support slots, and I need at least 3 of them. Now as this is an incursion mission that we're going to be playing for the battle size, because it's 1000 points, you can only use the same datasheet twice in a given list. Otherwise I'd just be spamming out loads of Locust Heavy Destroyers or a load of Scorpet Destroyers, so we can't do that. We can only take up to 2 units of each one. So for the first part of the heavy support section, I've gone with 2 identical units of Locust Heavy Destroyers. These are going to be max units of 3, so I'm going to have a total of 6 of them, 3 in one unit, 3 in the other unit, and all 6 of them are going to be taking the Gorse Destructors, the strength 10 weapons with 1 shot. They're miles better than the other weapon. You don't need the other weapon in my opinion. Always go with the strength 10 weapon. So we still need to fill up some heavy support sections within this detachment, and I've gone with 2 identical units again. This time it's the Locust Destroyers, so not the Locust Heavy Destroyers. That's a completely different datasheet. It's just the standard Locust Destroyers. Now what I've done here, I've gone with a min unit of one of them twice effectively. So I've got one single model in one unit and one single model in another unit. So I've got 2 in total 45 points per unit. Again, I'll explain this all in the tactics section of this video. But these guys come with the Gauss cannons as standard. Now the only other options I could have taken within the destroyer list is the hex mark destroyers. Now they are good against certain factions, toughness 3 factions, so you do have the option there of sticking some of those hex mark destroyers into the elite area of detachment, but I've opted not to take them today. I'm thinking more about my secondary objectives. So that in fact is 1,000 points on the nose. I've got the 2 Locust Lords, I've got the large Scorpet Destroyer unit, I've got 2 Ophidian units, which are min units of 3 per unit. I've then got the 2 Heavy Locust Destroyer units, and then the 2 minimum units of the standard Locust Destroyer units, 1 model per unit. Okay, so let's talk about the secondary objectives that I'm going to be taking with this list. The first one, I'm going to be using Purge the Vermin, which is from the Necron Codex. Now this is one of the Battlefield Supremacy options. Now the reason I've gone with Purge the Vermin is because of the game size. It's only 1,000 points. So if you're not aware what Purge the Vermin actually is, your opponent needs to have a unit wholly within each of the quarters. Any quarter that they've not got a unit inside, you score 2 points. And this can't actually be scored in the first battle round. So because this is such a small game size, they're not going to have loads of models, they're not going to have loads of units to be covering all the quarters, and they've got to be wholly within those quarters with the units as well. So you're going to be scoring some points with that, especially at this game size. If you're playing a larger game size, 2,000 points for example, this probably isn't the best one to select from in terms of secondaries. But when you're playing this kind of game size, it's not too bad. The second one I've gone for is Grind Them Down. Now this one took a lot of debating in my head. I wasn't sure if I wanted to take this one or not, but there weren't really any other options from the No Mercy, No Respite list. Now I could use another list of course, but I've already got a third one which I'll go over in a moment. But I've gone with Grind Them Down. So you score 3 points if you can eliminate more units than you've lost in that particular battle round. And it's quite key to remember that you've got to actually eliminate more units. So even if you remove 2 units and they also remove 2 of your units, you're not going to score because you've drawn. That's level. So you need to remove more to get the points, which is quite a risky play. But we have a lot of Scorpet Destroyers, we've got a lot of Ophidian Destroyers, and the Heavy Locust Destroyers. I think we could be slicing and dicing when we see fit. Now the risk with this secondary objective is if you kill too many too early, you kind of leave yourself short for later rounds because there's not as many units to destroy. Then you're of course open to losing units and then losing the points. However, in this case with this kind of list, I'm looking to table. Scorpet Destroyers, Ophidian Destroyers, Heavy Locust Destroyers, they're all elite killing machines. So I'm looking to table the opponent if I can. Now I'm not saying this is the most competitive list, it really isn't. It's a narrative list at the end of the day, it's a destroyer only list. But I think the game plan for me would be just to simply go out, try and table them. If you do kill too many too soon, okay, you're not going to score as many points for Grind Them Down later on in the battle. However, they're not going to have many units, so they're not going to be scoring that many primaries, and they're not going to be able to do their secondaries anyway. So it's kind of a win-win if you can pull it off. Then the third secondary I've gone with today, which is Raise the Banners. Now you're probably thinking, Raise the Banners, what are you thinking? You're not going to be doing actions with Scorpet Destroyers and Ophidian Destroyers and Locust Heavy Destroyers. This is where the Locust Destroyers come in. Not the heavy ones, the standard ones. This is why I've gone with single models in a unit. They're effectively going to sacrifice their range attacks to be able to raise the banners, because you're not limited to doing 1 per battle round. You can do as many as you want as long as they're an infantry model, which they are. So turn 1 I'd hope to get 2 banners in the air. That's going to be scoring me 2 points per battle round. And then it's going to bait my opponent to come towards these banners because now I've got to take them down. So as long as I keep 2 banners up and running throughout the entire game, then that's 10 points. I can score more than that, I can score less than that. It all depends on how the game goes. But there is a second reason to why I've taken Raise the Banners. And that reason is because of the first secondary objective that I've chosen, which was Purge the Vermin. Now if you remember, they've got to stay in all the quarters, otherwise they're going to just keep giving me 2 points per quarter. If they've got less units on the battlefield to come and attack my quarters or my banners if you like, they're not going to have enough units to defend their own areas or all the quarters if you like. So having both of those secondary objectives is going to give them a bit of a conflict, a little bit of a debate what they're going to be doing. Are they going to be leaving quarters behind to remove my banners? But basically something's got to give. And go back to those Locust Destroyers, I just wanted to make a little comparison. Those Locust Destroyers and Canoptic Scarab Swarms. Now I know we're not using Canoptic Scarab Swarms for this list because they're a Canoptic unit, we're doing a Destroyer list only. But I just wanted to make the comparison. For 45 points you're getting a min unit of Canoptic Scarabs, or 45 points you're getting 1 single Locust Destroyer. They both move relatively similarly, they've both got the fly keyword. However, the Locust Destroyer is an infantry model, so it can do some of the secondaries, whereas the Canoptic Scarab Swarms can't do them because they're a swarm unit. The Locust Destroyers hit on 3s, they've got the toughness value of a 5 as opposed to a 3. They've also got the 3+ armor save. Okay, the Canoptic Scarabs are slightly quicker with a 10-inch movement, and there's a lot more wounds within the min unit. There's going to be 12 wounds as opposed to 3 wounds, but it's got a 6+ armor save. So for this list, I'm kind of using my Locust Destroyer almost like a Canoptic Scarab Swarm in a way. It's going to be doing me my primary objectives and it's going to be doing my secondary objectives. And then furthermore, it's of course got the Gorse Cannon as well, which is pretty decent. 3 strength, 6 shots at -3 AP and the damage being D3. That's not too bad for a single model that's not even there to really shoot. But that's the reason why I've taken the Locust Destroyers within this list, other than the fact that of course they're a Destroyer Cult unit anyway, they were always going in. But just a little comparison with the Canoptic Scarab Swarms. So they're the 3 secondaries I've selected for this battle, for this list. You'll have to let me know what you'd pick below. It's not as easy as you think because they're all Destroyer Cult units that don't want to be doing actions that often. They want to be slicing and dicing or shooting. Now the other problem I face is the fact that I've got no nobles within the list, so I can't even use the command protocols. The one which has the directive where you can do actions and still fire your weapons. That would have been perfect for the Locust Destroyers with their Gorse Cannons. Raising the banners while still firing the Gorse Cannons, that would have been pretty good. But no nobles means no command protocols. Now there are some alternative options you can use with selecting your secondaries. The first one is behind enemy lines because you've got 2 Ophidian Destroyer units that are coming in. With the dimensional translocation ability, there was quite a bit of a debate in my head whether to take that one or whether to take Purge the Vermin. I've gone with Purge the Vermin in this case. Then the other secondary option could be Assassination, but it always dependent on the opposing player's list. If they've got characters within their list, then yeah, you can take it. Now if they've got 2 characters, one of them you'd presume would be the Warlord, so you can only score a total of 7 victory points with Assassination if they've got 2 character models. If they've got 3, that would be 10, not too bad. So it is up your sleeve if you can see a lot of characters within your opponent's list. Okay, so let's get on to the tactics of this list. What are my tactics? To begin, we've got the Locust Lord, the Warlord with the Implacable Conqueror Warlord trait. He's going to be going with a large Scorpion Destroyer unit, using the Veil of Darkness relic, getting them across the board. Now the Locust Lord himself has only got the Staff of Light, but of course he's got the United in Destruction aura ability, so that you're going to get your Scorpion Destroyers re-rolling the wound rolls of a 1, as well as re-rolling the hit rolls of a 1, with their own ability as well, so they're re-rolling 1s and everything basically, with all their weapons. Now while making this list, you could actually split those Scorpion Destroyers, have 2 units of 3 if you wanted to, but you can't Veil of Darkness relic both of them across the board of course. They need to be 1 single unit in order to do that. But as a plan B, if you wanted to, you can do the Veil of Darkness relic with 1 unit and then have the other unit in strategic reserves. Now the reason to put them in strategic reserves is for basically a backline defense. If some enemy units come deep striking in to your backlines, you've got your own Scorpion Destroyers that can come off on your own deployment line and then get straight into engagement range because of those strategic reserve rules. Now the Ophidian Destroyers, the 2 units of those are going to be coming in turn 2 onwards. They've got 2 options. They can come in to raise the banners perhaps, in the more distant kind of objectives that are in their deployment zone perhaps, or in the middle of the board, so they can come in and do that. Or option 2, which is probably the way I'm going to be using them, they're going to be a massive distraction unit. I want them coming in, charging into things that don't want to get into a fight, or just charging the biggest and baddest enemy unit. Potentially you could Veil of Darkness relic the Scorpion Destroyers and meet the Ophidian Destroyers there. And then all of a sudden, that United in Destruction aura is going to be working on all 3 of the units, as opposed to just the Scorpion Destroyers. That might be a little bit overkill having 3 Destroyer units that are slicing and dicing, as well as the Locust Lord, but you've got the option there. Okay, so we spoke about one of the Locust Lords, but what about the other Locust Lord within the list? Now he's going to be in the back lines with the 2 units of Locust Heavy Destroyers. He's going to be buffing up their abilities so that they can be re-rolling the wound rolls of a 1 when they're firing those big Gorse Destructors. Now the reason I've given him that relic, which is the Void Reaper, is simply for again a backline defense. Maybe you're not using the Scorpion Destroyers in strategic reserves, you need something to defend those heavy Locust Destroyers, and I would hope the Locust Lord with his Void Reaper can do that. Now you could further boost this Locust Lord by giving him a Warlord trait. Now you'd have to use the rarefied ability stratagem for a command point to give him an extra Warlord trait, so we've already used one with the Warlord of course, with the Implacable Conqueror Warlord trait, but you can opt to give him Thrall of the Silent King to increase his aura range by 3 inches. So now all of a sudden he's going to have a 9-inch aura as opposed to a 6-inch aura, just in case your heavy Locust Destroyers are a little bit spread out. And not only just the heavy Locust Destroyers, also the standard Locust Destroyers as well. They're going to be at the back lines, doing the banners as mentioned already when we spoke about the secondaries. And when the banners are up, they're going to be wanting to shoot their Gorse Cannon. So having them within range of the Locust Lord with the Thrall of the Silent King Warlord trait could be a little extra bonus for you. But as already mentioned, I think the main plan here is just to go tabling. Just clear off all the enemy units if you can. If you can't, you can't. It will still be a fun game. It's Destroyers. You have a bundle of fun when you're playing Destroyers, don't you? So that's what I've done with a 1,000 point Destroyer only list. Let me know below what you would do with 1,000 points if you were building your own Destroyer list. Would you use Hexmark Destroyers? And just bear in mind you can only use 2 of the same units at 1000 points in incursion. If you're doing the larger games you can use 3, but in this game size you are restricted to 2. So just remember that when you're making your list. It does make it quite tricky, and you probably have a very similar list to mine once you realise that there's not that many destroyer units within the codex. There is the Hexmark destroyers, there's the Scorpet lords as well. See what you can do, tell me what dynasty you're using, and also what secondaries you're using as well. That's the most important part, because it gets really tricky once you start to plan your secondaries with this list. So guys, that's the end of the video today. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Join the Discord if you haven't already as well. So all that's left to say guys is thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.